All right. Happy Friday. Welcome, everyone. And if you've noticed, we've got more than one person here today. What is going on? So, we've got Dave Harding with DCA, and we're going to be talking about money. So,
Love it.
welcome, Dave. How are you today?
I'm doing good. When you said money, made me think more money, more problems, which I haven't found to be true, actually.
Yeah.
It's just easier. More money makes it easier to deal with the problems.
Right.
Yeah, the problems are still there, but you get more money to deal with it. Yeah, I'm doing good. Things are going well here in Ohio.
Yeah.
So just kind of hold up in the house.
Right. I see you. And Alan, what's up with you today?
I'm here working at home. I was out yesterday up in Saginaw, Michigan. Had a great day. I've had a good week from traveling. I've been home working a lot, but yeah, I'm having a good month. Things are going well. It is raining here, but yeah, we need it. My grass is now a better shade of brown, a different shade, so that's good.
So it's not like dark brown. It's more like dog just peed on my lawn brown.
It's a healthy brown is what I want to say. So yeah. But can't complain. Things are going well.
Yeah.
I am excited about today's show. I've known Dave for a long time. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun show. And before we get into some stuff, let's say hello to some people. And don't forget, this is a Q&A show, and we need you to participate.
Absolutely.
So do us a favor and comment, post. If you're new to the show, please tell us who you are, where do you live, all that happy stuff. And then we would love it if you would share our program on Facebook or YouTube or wherever you're watching. So let's get out some hellos. Eric's here. So he's convinced, Dave, that you're a great guy.
I appreciate it. He doesn't know me that well, I think, is the problem.
Right. And Yost is here from Uppsala, Sweden, watching on YouTube. So thank you. Happy to see you here today. And so don't forget, this is a Q&A. We need your questions. So please, please, please write or comment and participate. Oh, and Peter says, Mars, Alan, and Dave, happy Friday greetings from Kansas City, home of the NFL world champion Kansas City Chiefs.
Got to throw that in.
Thanks. And do you think we're going to have a football season, or is it going to be we get into it and then the bubble's going to burst and we can't do anything? Just, I've been watching Hard Knocks on HBO, and it's very interesting, all the precautions they're taking and stuff. So, and then Sam says afternoon. It's already afternoon? I guess it is.
We got to give
it's 9 o'clock here in Arizona. I'm still drinking coffee. So.
Let's give a congratulations. Mr. Sam Bollinger got married Saturday. Him and Kelsey.
What are they doing on here?
Well,
on his honeymoon? Come on.
You know what? The honeymoon will come later because of COVID, but they had a small wedding on Saturday. So congratulations.
Well, that's awesome. Hey, congratulations, Sam. Happy for you. Happy for you. All right. So let's get into some topics. And let's just start off with a big one, which is cash flow. So right now we're in a hunker down, protect what you have kind of a thing. Right. And I learned some friends of mine that work for a major brand lost their job today. And this is a cash flow reduction measure, I'm sure. And I won't mention who they are. But let me tell you, it's going around, and I'm very distressed to hear what's happening with them. So I'm pretty bummed. But I understand it from a business. You got to make adjustments. So Dave, what do you see out there in the finance world with cash flow, with people making moves? What do you see?
Yeah, I mean, well, I've been preaching for a long time that cash flow is king. I mean, everybody says that, and I think we're just seeing the ramifications of cash flow being king. So in my world, I finance equipment. So I'm always having the conversation of using the cash or saving the cash. And, to be honest with you, if with a small business, we're seeing it all over the place, right? COVID has taken its toll. People are getting laid off. Businesses are struggling to have enough money. But that happens all the time, even in good markets, especially I deal in like mom and pop shops up to, you know, 10, $15 million companies. And on those size companies, there could be problems in their lives, their personal lives. Something could happen to where they're pulled out of the market and their cash is the only thing that can keep them alive for a while.
Mhm.
So people that didn't have a lot of cash going into this, you know, don't have a lot of cash now. So which makes them take decisions like pulling out sales reps and stuff.
Right.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
you know, it's just weird what's going on now. And I think it almost feels like I know people are doing some aggressive things. Like I know there are big companies. Like I had a conversation with somebody yesterday that I've known for a while that was talking about how this other, I won't mention all these companies, but they were buying up companies because of the position of the pandemic has left these other companies vulnerable, right? And we're talking, you know, huge corporations here. And so that's just what's going on. And so, and that's happened throughout the history of business, right? And it's not just what's going on now. And so there's a lot of opportunity. And so what's happening, I think, is people who don't have good cash flow, who are just kind of struggling, they're contracting, they're pulling away. And other people who have a war chest of money or some VC funds or whatever, they're actually using this as their opportunity to expand because we know that this isn't forever.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Hopefully it's not forever. It feels like this thing has lasted. We're in our third year of it, right? But if you really think about it, it's what, 5 months, right? I mean, it's like.
Well, and you're so right. You know, anytime we've talked about this before, that anytime there's a recession, you know, first time we're all in a pandemic, but when there's recessions, when you get to the bottom of that trough, there is opportunity there. If you can survive to the bottom, you know, for resources, for key people, for equipment. And unfortunately, it's a little bit of schadenfreude for you because it's you're profiting from other people's failures.
Right.
But when you do that, you've got to be solid enough to be able to pull the trigger quickly. There are some big pieces of equipment I'm working with, a company that is going down and they got to be out of their building in a month. And there's some humongous pieces of equipment that are going for pennies on the dollar. And I have 2 people looking to grab it. And you know what? If it does, it's going to happen quick. So yeah. So cash flow is king.
Yeah, there's major opportunity out there right now. You know, I talk to struggling customers that, you know, I deal in the screen print embroidery world, and there are people out there that, you know, I had a guy that I talked to the other day, and he had 5 school districts around him. And he said, Dave, I thought I was diversified, you know, and how in the world, you know, I thought, well, if one school district goes out, I got 4 more behind it. And then COVID takes out all the school districts, and now he's left in a lurch. But I talked to other customers that feel like, hey, we're in a good position. Most of our business comes from online, and it's time to run. We're going to start gobbling up everything that we can gobble up around us.
Yeah. And, it's taken everybody a minute to reset, I think. But some people are still stuck in where they were, and I'm waiting for things to happen back. And they might not make it, right? And so on the topic of cash flow here, I think it's really just about understanding where people are. And before we started this call, Dave, you were talking about how cheap cash is right now. So why don't you kind of like throw that out there for a minute?
Yeah, so I'll take you back, you know, pre the end of last year, I felt like I've been doing this for, I think, almost 15 years. And at the before the end of last year, it got to the Wild West. Money was everywhere. And if you had a pulse, you were getting money. And what happened during COVID, every underwriter out there went, oh no, and they shrunk their approval ratios, meaning that they weren't able to approve high-risk customers and stuff like that. So that is starting to open up. But what this has done, money is crazy cheap. So if you are a customer that has good credit, good time in business, if your company's solid, since I've been in the industry, you can't borrow money cheaper than what you can borrow right now.
And what is the rate?
In my world, probably depends on the dollar amount, right? So as you go higher in dollar amount, rate usually goes lower. But let's take a $50,000. you're going to be 4.99, somewhere in that neighborhood. So you go to the bank, you put a lien on your building, something like that, you might be in the high 2s, low 3s at this point, which in the commercial world is insane.
Right. And does everything have to be secured, or are you doing unsecured too?
Well, on my end, that's the difference between us and the bank. So on my end, we only secure our money with the equipment. That's why you got to pay us a hair more typically than the bank. Now, if the bank's just securing with the equipment, we're going to be usually apples to apples with them. But typically what they do is they put a blanket lien on your entire shop. They own all your assets. They have access to your checking and savings, which allows them to give you a little bit better terms.
Okay. All right.
Dave, we have a question farther down, Marshall.
Oh,
Peter's asking. Yeah.
I was listening and not reading. Sorry.
No, that's okay, but I think it applies.
Yeah. So does DCA finance used equipment? And if so, how do the rates compare to new?
Yeah. So there's kind of two scenarios in that. One, it depends, Peter, if you're talking about straight up used equipment off of eBay or off of DigitSmith or something like that. We can do that. That money costs a hair more. And when I say a hair, it could be a point or two higher depending. If you're buying used equipment through a vendor, then it's equivalent to buying new equipment. We don't mind. There's some issues, and believe it or not, I'm starting a little off project of the issues when you're buying used equipment for us financing. The risk comes in two ways. One, is the equipment going to run for you? Because again, that's our asset. And if it quits running, a lot of customers quit paying us. So we have a little bit higher risk on that if there is no vendor involved, because there's nobody to guarantee that the equipment's going to continue to run. The second thing is, who owns the equipment? What I'm worried about most in this world right now is when you are buying a used piece of equipment, you have to understand that if a finance company like me had financed that in the past and I'm not paid off, that's my asset. And it doesn't matter if they sell it to whoever, it's still my asset, and I can come at it anytime that I want to. That is a big problem. The second problem is customers will say, no, I paid cash for this. So you're buying a used piece of equipment and the customer says, no, I paid cash for it, when they really had a bank line of credit. And that bank line of credit has a blanket lien over all their assets. So sometimes they're not legally allowed you to sell that asset. It's never their asset to sell. All that to say is we finance used equipment all the time. It's just, and I would help you. If you called me, we can do some credit. We can do some pulls on the customer, the equipment you're looking at, see if anybody owns it. There's some stuff we can do on our end. If you ever need anything like that, if you're out there, give me a shout. I'll help you out with it.
So Dave, I have a follow-up question to that. Yeah. So let's say I'm a shop wherever I am, right? And I'm buying that used equipment from this other shop because, just like Alan was saying, they have to move and they've got a great deal, right? How do I know I'm actually buying the equipment and not somebody else owns it because it's their asset, like you just explained? How do I protect myself? Because I don't know. I'm taking it on their word that they can sell it to me, right?
It's funny because I don't know if this is the appropriate time, but I'm actually starting.
It's the appropriate time.
I'm starting like a little bit of a side business that is going to very cheaply take care of those problems for customers. But that being said, UCC filings. If a bank owns the equipment, they're going to file a UCC filing on it.
What and then
good question. I don't even know what UCC filing is. One of the language. What it means is it's like a title. So the state all has a list of UCC filings based on your name. So Alan Howe, if he's purchased equipment, and usually it's by name and by company name. So if Alan Howe has purchased equipment from a finance company, there'll be a UCC filing saying underneath his name, the equipment description, and that was financed with whoever. So UCCs is one. The best way to protect yourself is find an original invoice. If the person selling you the equipment doesn't want to give you the original invoice because say they don't want to say that I bought this for 50 and I'm selling it to you for 20, tell them you don't care about the prices. Have them white out the prices. You want to see who the original owner of that equipment was. So who the manufacturer was and that it actually went to the customer you're buying it from. So get an original invoice and then check the UCCs of the company that you're purchasing it from.
I bet it's for Universal Credit Check.
Is that what UCC is? There you go.
I don't know.
I don't know.
The acronym could be.
This is how I've been doing this for so long that it's one of those terms that I've used forever. And You called me out on it. I really don't know what I'm talking about, but
Hey,
thanks for having me on today.
Somebody watching, what can you use Mother Google and see what they say?
Exactly.
So let's. We got a whole bunch of new people watching, so let's jump in here. Joel, hey Joel, hey, did you make it through the hurricane? Can you post the update? I was very concerned about you. I was watching the Weather Channel and going, oh, he's going to have some wind. Joel lives in Lafayette, Louisiana, which is probably not in the path, but off to the, I guess it would be the east a little bit. Richard says, finally a link that worked. Couldn't find a link in Atkinson t-shirt. That's interesting. It should be populated on my thing. I don't know. Dan says,
there it is.
COVID has shown screen print is not recession proof. Yes, we always talked about how recession proof this industry is, and guess what? It's not. And that was Peter's thing. Cindy says, good morning. Thanks, Cindy. Appreciate you. Saw that you were watching yesterday. By the way, how did your husband like this show with Rob yesterday? Can you throw us a comment? Did he find it interesting? Just curious, since you made him watch it.
I have comments on the show yesterday with Rob.
Yeah, and Keith says, hey, Rob's here. We've seen this happen before, the lean issue. Yep. Eric's here. Thanks, Eric. Yosta says UCC filing is all over the U.S. All right, so Dave, he's calling from Sweden, so maybe that's just a U.S. thing.
I think is it only in the U.S.? Is UCC only a U.S. thing?
Right. Jim's here. Happy to see you. Universal Commercial Code.
That's correct. Yep.
Marshall, we got to talk something real quick.
People. Mike says the same thing. Thank you. Peter says the same thing. So if we have 3 people answering the same thing, that's what it means, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is right. I just couldn't think of it off the top of my head.
Right.
So
I don't know if y'all could really go for some unprecedented for some precedented times.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Eric. We feel the same way. So we want precedent.
Hey, Marshall, we got this is exciting. Jim Kazix is with us, and we talked about this a few weeks ago. Jim has been real sick over in New Jersey for months. And Jim, it is so good to see you back. Thank you. So glad, man.
Jim. Glad you're
we didn't mention your name. We just said, man, be praying. So glad to see you, buddy. Right. And Cindy says he only watched a small bit, issues on the printing for it. Thanks for the replay. No problem, Cindy. Happy to have it replay for you on YouTube, which is where, by the way, this episode will live forever on YouTube. So, all right, cool. So, thanks for that topic. Let's jump to the next one, I guess. Right? So Dave, did we decide is the UCC only a U.S. thing, or is that man? I don't know. That's David. He froze up on us. Uh-oh. Did we offend him? Look, I thought he was thinking about the answer. Maybe he was coming back in. He was embarrassed. He didn't know UCC. He'll probably come back on. Okay. So let's stall while we're waiting. Okay. So you had a comment about the show yesterday with Rob. Why don't we do that while we're waiting? Oh, you know what? I have so much I could always say about Rob Coleman. You know what? It was awesome. Rob and I, and that is for those of you who don't know, Rob and I have this thing going back and forth. He, on this show, he has kind of teased me a little bit. So when he was on, I texted him. I said, "Oh, I am definitely watching." But it was a great show. It was awesome information, and Rob, you did incredible, man. Yeah, if you missed it, that's on my YouTube channel, which is YouTube/Marshall Atkinson, and you'll find the link there. And we talked about the myth of white ink. We talked about print on demand. We talked about upgrading equipment. And what was the other thing? Oh, future of the industry. Oh, here's Dave. He's back. There he is. Yeah. Hey, we missed you.
I lost power.
And I'm back in the second spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything went out there for a second. Shut off my modem.
Right. So Peter wants to know, what advice do you have, Dave, for companies to improve their cash flow?
So when you're talking cash flow, most companies are talking about the time they receive money to the time money is going out. When I talk about cash flow, my expertise is on the equipment side. So other than just, the biggest thing right now is if you can replace labor. So if you can have something that's an automated system, in my world, the best way to increase your cash flow is to just automate as much as possible, because finance and equipment will always be cheaper than hiring an employee.
Yeah.
But I know that's probably not the advice he's looking for, because he's probably
looking for it because he wants to sell equipment.
Oh, okay.
Dave, do you
there you
know
go.
who Peter is?
I'm sorry, no.
Peter is Peter. Are you the president or vice president of M&R? I forget the title. So
yeah, so he wants to sell equipment. So I'm sure Peter's a smart guy. He's throwing that in sneaky.
and Rob Coleman, just so you know who's talking, is in charge of the textile business unit for NASDAR.
Right.
Replacing employees with automation. That's what I'd be all over right now. You can finance $50,000 usually costs around $1,000 a month on a 5-year term. So, a $12 an hour employee, if you can find one, is going to be $2,000 a month. So rather than have somebody pull a squeegee, get that auto in there.
Right. Or screen coder or image CTS unit or something.
Yeah.
Right? So you could do more with less when the machines are working, right? That doesn't mean you need a physical person doing it. You can just do something and walk away and go do something else. And that way actually getting more work done with a fewer amount of time. So, all right, cool. So let's go to our next topic, which is there an uptick in equipment purchases right now? So I think this is actually a good segue with what we were just talking about. So
yeah, and the uptick is all replacement of employees. I talked to a customer the other day, and we were just chatting about how difficult it is to get somebody in there to do the not the high technical aspects. So the pulling the squeegees or pulling shirts off of the pallets, stuff like that, or so if you can replace an employee, I'm doing a lot of direct to screen units right now, doing a lot of automatic presses. So just stuff that I think what happened was employers, during COVID had to let some people go, and they're finding, hey, I can replace them a lot cheaper, or maybe they don't want to come back, or they don't want to come back for that pay, but they can replace them a lot cheaper financing equipment than they can, trying to make a new hire.
Right.
Absolutely.
For the record too, during COVID, it's like, right when COVID happened, nobody was doing anything. We went through probably a month and a half of everybody didn't know what to do. So nobody was expanding, nobody was doing anything. And then all of a sudden, I would say in the last month, we have just shot up like crazy. I have customers coming back to me for everything. The other day, I financed a $20,000 phone system because they purchased a phone system that allows their whole company, it was actually a hospital facility, but that allows their whole company to communicate in a way to where they were able to not bring back 3 different employees because of the new phone system.
Wow.
Oh, that's interesting. So so you finance more than just equipment, right?
Well, yeah, and we consider that equipment.
So somebody wants to, because right now everybody's trying to sell online, and let me tell you, I've seen everybody's websites in this, well, not everyone's, but a whole bunch. And a lot of websites, 1986 call, they want their website back, right? So the websites aren't really primed to make people money, and they need to hire a professional because they have neither the time nor the skill to do that. Do you do financing on that? Because a decent website's, 50, 60 grand at least.
Yeah, we can do it. Now, I will caveat that with it's going to take some pretty solid credit. Whenever we can finance software, we can finance, we always call it air, meaning there's no hard collateral behind it. We can definitely do it, but it is not for, unfortunately, startups, poor credit. Some of the people that need it is not going to have access to it if we can't put an asset behind it. But if you're a good credit, been in business for a while, believe it or not, one of the things, I financed a bunch of software. We used to finance inflatables because we always made the joke that we're literally financing air, because these companies come in and buy these huge inflatables and have like a theme park out there, and we were financing them. until they started blowing away and, taking kids with them. And then there was all kinds of liability issues.
Oh, so you mean like the kids' birthday party things?
Yeah.
Houses, yeah.
I've rented several of those over the years.
Yeah, so those rental companies you're renting from them used to finance them with people like me. So rather than, just buying them outright, they would rent them for, they would finance them for 2 years, and we would just keep turning them over.
Yeah, it was big fun when my son was a little boy. So
now you can buy them so cheap from Walmart, but that's a whole nother, doesn't matter. So
yeah. Well, I'm talking the ones as big as your house. That's a slide. That's got the pool at the bottom.
Yep.
Just like, oh my God, makes your kid just like peeing his pants. He's so excited. So
poor Alan, he's done that before.
Yosta says, come and help with this order and learn some new stuff together. Right. Hey, thanks, Yosta. We're on our way to Sweden. I'm going to buy the ticket later today.
All three of us. Dave, you want to go to Sweden?
Yeah.
Sure, why not?
And by the way, Peter says he's deep into the vice. As the vice president.
Yeah.
Forgive me.
Ray says, hey, Ray, what's up? Ray says, COVID moved websites from nice to have to have to have. And let me tell you about websites. If you're going to be redoing your website, and because I talk about this a lot with my consulting clients, you need to understand what is the purpose of your website. And you get one thing, right? And because when a new customer or whatever comes to your website, what is the one thing you want them to do right this second, right? They have to know that without having to be told. It has to be what I call skillet to the head obvious. Like, are you trying to sell them something? Are you trying to get them to sign up for a newsletter or something? Are you trying to get them to schedule a call? What do you want them to do? It has to be big and bold and beautiful right there in the middle. So they do that with a call to action immediately. And if you can't, like a lot of websites, I think it's just this huge amount of words. I mean, it's like every word that you've ever heard of ever is on the front page of the website. Nobody reads that. Quit doing it. So can you get it down to 6 words, or better yet, an icon with a button? That's what you need to be thinking about. Because and does it work on one of these things? You've seen them. Phone, right? And then the thing that's going on right now is, does your website work with voice search?
Oh, interesting.
Right. So that's the big thing right now. And so, because most people don't ever even type anymore, they just go, in my phone, I'll probably say, if I go, hey, Google, what's the nearest barbecue place? Look, it just answered, right? So
in airplane mode, so I can't help you with that at the moment.
Thanks, Google. So
along with everybody else's phone on the call, just searched the best barbecue place as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So that's how it works. So somebody's looking for a store or a screen print shop or a place to order ink or whatever. That's how people are doing it. So that has to be linked to your website. And so have you thought that through? Right. So a really good web designer, a pro, is going to know that. If you're just using Wix or some other whatever and you're making do, you're not going to get that feature because you don't know how to do this stuff. So this is why, if you're interested in getting a 24/7 salesperson, a decent website, having a pro build this is something that you really need. And I know, Ray Smith's his wife, that's what she does, right? So I'm sure Ray has got a comment here sooner or later. Here you go.
Dan Solomon.
Ray's wife works in web development, is married to 4-year industry vet. Pretty nice synergy. How about that?
Very good. So Dave, DCA, you guys just redid your website.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for pointing that out. Now I'm worried. I don't want Marshall to go to it. Just
that's because I saw you writing little notes. I'm going, okay, what are you doing?
I was say this is very educational for me. I'm glad I came on today because I was taking notes on what Marshall was saying about the website.
Well, hey, you know what? I'm a consultant. I can help you. We'll talk later, dude.
Hey, and then I'll finance your other customers. So we'll just, we don't even need this call. We already got business rolling.
I don't need any money right now. I need cash from customers, but I'm not building anything currently. So, all right, cool. So here we go. Everybody wants to know their favorite barbecue. Arthur Bryant's in KC, been there. Awesome. By the way, if you tip the guy at the beginning $1, you get double meat.
Cool.
That's the tip. Central Barbecue in Memphis, been there. That's great.
I've been there, yep.
One right by the Martin Luther King thing downtown is the better one. That's the one I like. All right, so let's use Alan's favorite word and pivot.
So Dave, the deal on that is pivot. We're allowed to use it still, but after 2020, I never want to hear the word pivot again.
Yeah, but we're replacing pivot with checklist, I think. That's
With
right.
with transition.
Just because so many people are saying they're pivoting right now.
Oh,
yeah.
All the time. We got to pivot to new markets and stuff. So yeah.
Well, you do have to pivot.
Right. Finance, bank, cash. So let's dig into that. So what are we talking about here?
Yeah,
go ahead,
Al. Oh, they all have their time and place, So whenever, we talk about financing, I always talk about companies like mine. So, we're a third-party financer. There's unfortunately a bunch of us out there, but you have a third-party financer like us, you have the bank, and then you have cash. Those are, when you come to buy equipment, those are your three options. There's positives and negatives to each one of those. I don't know if we want to kind of break them down individually.
Go for it, dude.
So third-party financing, when it comes to companies like ours, the reason you're using us is you want to preserve credit lines with your bank. You want to move fast. We're way quicker than a bank will ever be. Maybe you don't want to put any money down. Most of us will finance equipment with no money down. We might even defer a payment for 3 to 6 months for you if that helps you out. You worry about liens. So this is kind of versus a bank loan. You're worried about all the liens the bank's going to put on it. And then let's be honest, you can't be approved with your local bank. That could be because of credit, could be because of time and business. That could be because you're buying, at the end of the day, your financials just aren't up to par. Maybe your credit's good, maybe you have good cash flow, but you just don't do well keeping track of your financials, or your financials aren't well. So those are the main reasons customers come to somebody like me. Bank is usually best for everything else. So if you're getting a working capital line, they're difficult to get, but your bank is the best place to get cheap money when it comes to working capital. I always recommend, if you can do it, go set up a capital line with your bank. Even if you don't use it, times like this, it comes in handy. So go set up on a capital line. Just take your time, give them the financials they need, see how much money you'll get. They'll say you have to use it so often, pull it out, put it in your savings account for a few weeks and put it back in if you don't really need it. But always have a line of credit with your bank if you can do it. Usually banks are cheaper on money. Depends on the bank. I was doing this back in 08 or pre-08. And pre-08, I always used to say, companies like ours, on average, 1 to 2 points higher than the bank, almost all the time. Now, after 08 and to the present time, it depends on your bank. We should be a hair higher than what the bank is because of our collateral base. We're only putting a lien on the piece of equipment. But I've seen banks that are, because they don't know the equipment, maybe you go into your local bank and you're financing an automatic press and they have no idea what that is. They might up the rate on you. So it all depends, but traditionally a bank is a little bit cheaper. And then cash, we talked about cash. Cash is king. I think we can talk about this a little bit more in depth, but cash is my last option whenever it comes to purchasing equipment. At the end of the day, equipment's a depreciating asset, and usually putting your money into a depreciating asset is not the wisest investment. There are limits. If it depends on ratios. The way I always look at it is there's some things you're not going to get rid of. When it comes to, I talk to customers, and there's always two types. Well, usually, there's two different sides of this argument, but a customer always believes, well, Dave, if I don't have any debt, then my business is secure. I'm very safe if I don't have any debt. The problem with that theory is when you're running a business, you always have overhead. So you have the lease on your building, you have employee cost, you have marketing cost, you have, consultant cost, whatever that you're currently running. And I think the best is just to give an example. Say you're buying a $50,000 piece of equipment and you have $60,000 in the bank and your operating costs are $10,000 a month just to operate your business. So you have 6 months of cash flow, very secure position. The way I always look at it is you got time to pivot if you need to. You got 6 months to pivot into something else. So things go wrong. You got 10 grand of operating expenses. You got 60 grand in the bank. You got 6 months to pivot to somewhere else. Let's say you're buying a $50,000 piece of equipment because you have this opportunity, or you want to replace an employee. If you pay cash for it, now you have $10,000 left. You just took what was 6 months, and you now have 1 month of, I have to make it. If you were to get the equipment and something were to happen, now you're in a very unsecure position. Versus if you were to finance that 50 grand, it would probably cost you around $1,000 a month. So now you have $11,000 of overhead to run your business, but you still have $60,000 of cash that's available to you to have time to pivot if you have to.
Yeah. And let's not forget, some banks, you can't even go to the bank now, or they're closing some branches down. You know, I was Heather Stribel was posting the other day. She was very frustrated with her bank because the branch she used is just completely closed on her without even a notice or anything, and she had to deposit a bunch of money. Right? And do you remember that post down? I know you probably saw it.
I do. And she is in a place where it's a little bit more rural, so she was going to have to go 20, 30 minutes away.
Yeah. So, you know, your banks, you know, are trying to make it through this thing too. Right. And so they're looking at their costs. They're looking at their overhead. They're looking at employees, labor, real estate, all that as well. So it's just a kind of a hard thing. So we got some comments just want to throw out. So Ray says that the Central Barbecue is next to the Rain Motel. That was exactly what I was trying to remember. Thank you. Rob says Mark's O'Donnell's house in Texas.
Absolutely.
Watched the picture. She evidently, he just fed Marsha Derryberry last week. So
Mark O'Donnell with GSG, and he should just be a caterer for barbecue and smoking.
Greg says, I never, all caps, use my own money when I can use someone else's. Good advice from Greg, and thanks for watching, Greg. Good to hear from you. And then Peter has a question. So if I had a piece of equipment that was fully paid for, could I release it with DCA to get some operating cash and pull some money out? That's a very interesting question. What do you say, Dave?
Yeah, we do. We call them sale leasebacks, or, you know, refinancing on equipment. We do it all the time. So you can definitely do it. I will say there's a bunch of different factors. Obviously, it depends on how much the equipment's worth. You're never going to get what you paid for it originally, unless, you know, say you have an invoice that's 90 days old. If an invoice is 90 days old and you say, oh man, I wish I would have financed that rather than paid cash for it, you know, we can turn those over close to 100%. But, you know, on average, I would say it takes double the equipment than what you think to get half the money. So, and that's why I'm not a fan of using cash to begin with, because cash, it's hard to get money back out of equipment. So we do it. It's one of the products we offer, but it's going to cost you a little bit more than if you would have just originally financed it.
Okay. So if you're a shop right now and sales aren't the way they should be, and you've got some equipment, this could be an option to get some money out of your business to keep pushing.
Yeah. The other thing we didn't talk about is if you do use all your cash, whenever you said that, getting money back out, you know, everybody always complains to me about this, and it is a little bit true. Banks and underwriters always want to give money to people that don't need it. So once you go on this spiral, I call it kind of the downward spiral of you keep limiting your cash, there's a point that you don't look good to underwriters like me. So it worries us, because whenever we are looking at a portfolio or looking at a customer's credit or their financials or whatever, anybody in my industry just cares if we're going to get paid back. Yes, right. We have the asset, but we just want you to agree to the terms, and we want you to pay us back. One of the big X factors on that is, where do you have access to money at? So, you know, revolving ratios are very important. How much access to credit cards do you have, or where can you go access money quickly if you need it? And then just plain old money in the bank, you know, cash flow. How much money do you have? Because if it looks like, again, say that $50,000 example, and it looks like you have enough money to cover 10 months of operating expenses, that's a no-brainer for somebody like us. Even if you have credit issues, we can overcome those credit issues because, oh, look, he has a stockpile of cash if things start to get slow.
Yeah. Here's a great question from Ray.
Yeah.
You bundle old financed equipment with new for a consolidated bill. So they just want to pay one payment.
It's a good question. And the answer is it all depends. So it depends on who financed it originally. Unfortunately, I don't think, Ray, we've done business before, but I would go back to the company that financed it for you, because they're going to be most apt to be able to do that. But then it even depends on, the only thing I will warn you for is figure out how your first deal was structured. Because in my industry, payoffs are not usually amortized. So if you're wanting to pay off that old equipment or you want to roll it into the other one, you want to make sure that they're going to give you a good deal. So you might be better off just to bite the bullet and continue to make the payment on that equipment and then refinance your next one. Now, that's a caveat. Let me put that in parentheses, only because the only reason I would recommend, if I was consulting, the only reason I would recommend to combine them would be as if you're trying to low overhead right now. So if they will combine them and extend that original one back out to the original term, over the term, that equipment's going to cost you way more money, because say you're down to 30 months and you're going to put it back on 60, it's going to cost you way more over the term. But if that lowers you $500, $600 a month right now, and that's when you need it right now, it could be beneficial. But just make sure you know what you're getting into, because it will cost you more money to do it.
So mostly on a case by case, they need to talk to them. You need to talk to them a little bit more on that.
Yeah.
That was a great question, Ray. Thank you.
Thanks, Ray.
Yeah.
All right. How are we looking here? We got 20 minutes and one topic left. So are we ready?
Bam.
Is there a time ever to pay cash?
Dave's shaking his head. Never.
No, there definitely is.
Show's over. See you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Have a great week.
You know, this is where people, there's not a magic ratio. You know, how much cash flow to keep free? You know, you're a consultant, Marshall. You know, what's your plans for the future? Where are you going? What do you want to do? What is your expenses? How much does your shop cost to run? How much does your personal life cost to run? Those are all equations to figure out how much cash you need to be secure. So there definitely is a time, but the time is when those ratios make the most sense. An extreme would be you run on average $80,000 to $90,000 in the bank, and you're buying a $10,000 piece of equipment, and it's not, even if you didn't use that money, you're never going to do it. There's no future you can foresee you needing that $10,000. So just pay cash for it and move on. You know, caveat that with, again, assuming that you want to own that asset, or that, you know, it's not something you just, I actually do a lot of that financing on customers that could easily pay cash for it. And it's just because they have a principle that they don't believe in using their own money for any equipment. That equipment they treat as an employee. I'm not paying my employee 5 years in advance for the work that it's doing. So I'm going to let it generate revenue and pay for itself. So, but yeah, there are ratios that once you get to a certain point, paying cash is, you know, makes sense.
So do you ever work with a company and advise them and stuff? Let's say, because I know a lot of, you know, and I know this is oversimplifying things, but there's really kind of two types of people that get into this industry. There's the business person who sees an opportunity, and then he's going to hire all the creatives and stuff, right? So they probably know all this stuff. But the other kind of person is a creative who wants to monetize their creativity, and they get into it because they're an art person, and they say, you know what, I don't want to work for the man, I can work for myself, and I'm building my company, and maybe they just don't have the financial skills. Do you work with people on stuff like this to really kind of understand the financial end of this stick a little bit, just as, hey, let me straighten you out a little bit, I can help you make some better financial decisions? Do you work with people like that?
I would say every customer I work with like that, but not on a like consultant type fee. From the standpoint of, if you call me, and so I am what you call vendor driven, meaning most of my business comes from vendors that refer me to a customer. My goal inside of that is to make sure their customer is purchasing that equipment the best way for that customer. I don't view my goal as to try to close the sale, try to just ram it down their throat, hey, buy this now. I view my goal as to try to make sure when they buy that equipment, it's the best setup that they possibly can do. So I talk through what we're talking through. I talk through it with pretty much every lead that I get. I talk through what's your cash flow scenario, what is your bank scenario, and then I get into what we do and how we can be a benefit. And to be honest with you, the way I justify that on the sales side is I like to know that up front. I like to, within our first conversation, know that if I'm going to be a good fit for you, and if I'm not, I'll gladly help you lead into what the better fit is this time. Because most of the time, I believe it's a third, a third, and a third. A third of the time, you should be paying cash. A third of the time, you should be financing with a company like us. And a third of the time, you should be going to the bank. So it's all a numbers game. If I'm not your best option this time around, I'll be on the next time.
Okay.
But not on a, I do it with every customer, but not on a, like a paid fee type of scenario or anything like that.
Okay. Great.
I love that. More customer centric.
Yeah.
Alan's been with me when he was selling equipment. How many people did I lead to go to their bank? I'm a horrible sales rep.
Well, a couple. So I'll take this over. My relationship with Dave goes way back. So I've said it before. The company, Dave, your title now is what? President? Are you the owner now, right?
Yeah, owner, president. Yeah.
So when DCA started, it stands for Dick Clark Associates. And Dick Clark and I went to church together. It's not the Dick Clark of, New Year's Eve and stuff. But when I started in sales, and I was barely 21, I'm a guy of faith. And Dick sat me down within that first year and talked. And he just said, this is back when leasing, like 87, 88, when leasing was, if you had no other option, you went to a leasing company. But even then, Dick helped me and kind of was a mentor. And he sat down, he said, you have to decide right now, kid. And I'm sure he used the word kid. Are you in this for the short-term sale or long-term relationship? And meaning, are you customer-centric? And DCA has always been that way. Dave comes into the picture. What year did you start with DCA?
I think like 06, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Oh, I knew Dave back when younger, small town. I knew his family. I knew his older brother better and everything. But Dave was a little boy. And so I knew Dave through people there. And Dick's,
I was a younger man. I don't know if I was ever little. I just want to put that caveat on that.
Yeah. So I remember, Dick working with Dave. And of course, Dave, we got to tell the story of when, Dick was my lease guy and I was selling equipment. I've sold automatics and stuff. And Dave was my, DCA was my lease guy for 30 years. Always have been who I recommended. And I knew Dave was there and I'm in the office and Dick and I are talking about something and Dave's there and he goes, Dave, can I share this story? He goes, when do I get to work one of your deals? And I looked at them deadpan and I said, when you grow up, because he was brand new. and Dave kind of looked at me and all that. Dick told him later that, I'm very much, on my customers. And I did ask Dick later, going, how's he doing? He goes, he's doing great, Alan. He's never going to hurt you and stuff. And as Dave got in there, he was working some deals and just grew on that. And Dave since then has become my fishing buddy in Ohio. We've been walleye and sawguy fishing. His wife, I actually knew her parents before his wife was born and become a great friend. So Dave, now as he has bought DCA, Dick's still in the pictures, a little bit more retired. They have always been that very customer centric. I have watched Dave tell people go, yeah, you know what? Cash would be a better option for that. I've watched Dick say, you know what? You need to go to that small business loan because it's a better deal because they're in it for the long game. It's all customer centric. And I think most everybody we know on here is about that. What's best for the customer, we're going to build a relationship. So there's my DCA plug.
That's good.
You owe me money, Dave.
Well, the only thing I was going to say about that, and I'll take this for 2 seconds, but I'm a new sales rep and, I'm just learning the ropes. And Alan is a vendor of ours that, sends us consistent business that we, help his customers out. I'm on the phone with Alan and we're joking. We're having a good time. And I said something to him and he sent me a customer and I said something just kind of smart aleck back to him. And all of a sudden he goes, fine. I don't want to name my competitor, but he goes, I'm calling your competitor. And he hangs up the phone. And I'm like, What do I do? Like, I was like, what do I do? Like, I'm gonna have to go down and talk to Dick and be like, Alan's not sending this business anymore. I don't know what's happening. So I appreciate that, Alan. I almost had a heart attack when I was like 24 because of that, but so I appreciate that.
So Dave does go in and talk to Dick, but Dick's on the phone. He waves Dave in. And what he doesn't know is I'm talking to Dick going, here's what I just did. He's going to come in, go with it. And we're just jacking with them. And Dick kind of did. He kind of said, look, I've been dealing with him for a long time. You better figure out how to fix this. But then we let him know it was all set up.
That's great. That's great.
Oh, it was fun.
So Yosta says in the 80s, 90s, when I did cost to cost, maybe coast to coast, the U.S., it was a big discount if you pay cash. So that's not a thing now. So I guess he means when you buy equipment, you pay cash.
Yeah. And it was. I remember selling equipment in the late 80s, and man, people were just writing checks. Hold on, I'm getting a certified check. Or in Texas a lot, it was like, yeah, I'm buying an automatic. It's like cash. Like, oh, excuse me, did you see your drug dealer today? It was a lot of that. Right.
And Greg says Dick Clark was a great mentor. I learned tons from him, and he never did a sin of business with me. Great guy.
It's what you want to hear as a vendor.
Dan, are you in Ohio? Maybe you should go hang out and go fishing with Dave today.
Not today because it's storming, but saw guy, yes. Me and Alan have put a lot of saw guy on boats before, so
yeah,
that's what we do.
So Dan Solomon lives in Michigan, Dave. He has a boat with downriggers and stuff, and yeah, up here in Michigan. So
yeah,
Dave,
I've turned into more of an Erie walleye guy now. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I do.
Right, and Rob says still happens sometimes. Duffel bags of cash, just keep it below 10K.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, hold on. Is that what paid for that boat back there, Rob, that you're on? Duffel bags of cash?
Yeah. That's from his dealings in Mexico.
Yeah. All right, cool. So we got 10 minutes left, so it's kind of open. So we're out of topic. So if you've got a question, why don't you guys comment and throw it in? I know we got a bunch of people watching right here, and maybe if you haven't commented, at least say hello. Don't just be a lurker. Don't make Alan call you out.
So Dave, I got a question. So what is the smallest piece of equipment that can be financed, and what is the largest? Are there limits?
Yeah, smallest would be 2,000. I, total transparency, don't recommend financing anything below 5 unless you absolutely need it. Meaning that you're a very new business, you're struggling with cash flow. $2,000 means a lot, because really good terms don't start till $5,000. So if you can just slap it on a credit card or pay cash under 5, I would recommend that. Again, caveat. One thing you don't want to do as a startup or a new business, because one thing I just want to throw this out there. Money's expensive. When you're starting a business, there's no getting around it. Money's expensive. And I am not saying you have to finance equipment or that's the best way to go, but do not limit your cash, because people will make the mistake of, I'm starting a small screen print business and I need to buy this $10,000 worth of equipment or $5,000 or $4,000, and they use all their cash or they use all their revolving credit to buy it. Then they get orders and business goes well. Everybody thinks about what happens if this doesn't go well. It goes well. Now all of a sudden they don't have cash to buy the supplies that they need. They don't have cash to go after the new customers. They're just strapped. So if they would have paid a little bit more money to companies like me, because it is expensive as a new business or a startup, they would have been better off. But your question was a dollar amount. So $2,000 to whatever. I have never broke the $1 million mark yet, but I've been in the high 900s before. So, anything in our industries, we're usually pretty good at. So
great.
And what is the most popular thing that people are buying right now, just from an equipment standpoint, not necessarily a brand?
I probably don't have like a good, I'm stuck in some markets not stuck. I enjoy the markets I'm in, but my viewpoint is mostly automatic presses and direct-to-screen units. So, hey, I talked to Mark over at Dalfit this morning. He told me to give him a shout-out. So, Mark, I'm giving you a shout-out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mark. Oh, so anyway, got some snark here. So Ray says all Dan wants to do is talk fishing because it's Friday.
Right above it, because Dan said, "Can we?" Right,
Right.
there. For a free time, we can always talk about fishing, Dan.
Yeah. So, all right, we're kind of wrapping up. So before we get through everything, I want to throw some things out here. One is Shirt Lab Tribe, and we signed our 70th tribe member this morning. So thank you for joining. And if you haven't learned about Shirt Lab Tribe, please go to shirtlabtribe.com. Here's the webpage. This is the professional safe space in the decorated apparel community to learn. And so we have a live Zoom Q&A every Tuesday, and every Thursday we have a different presentation from somebody in the industry, and it's lots of fun, and you'll learn a whole lot. And yesterday we had Eric Campbell join us, and he's not on the chat today, but he's awesome. And if you don't know who Eric Campbell is, go to ericcampbell.com. He's all about embroidery, and he did a whole hour on patches and how to do patches for hats and other things. And it was just a super fascinating thing.
Incredible.
Alan watched it yesterday, and he doesn't know anything about embroidery. So what did you think
about thing,
Alan?
Yeah, it was great. It was awesome. I didn't know there were that many patches. I never knew how they were applied, and the technology goes into it. It was great.
And so you feel like now you have a good basic understanding of how to embroider a patch on a hat?
Compared to Eric? No.
No, not compared to Eric. Compared to, like, I don't know, Dave.
Dave, do you know what a patch is?
What's a patch?
Got it. I'm about that. Yeah.
So
anyway, he's all over it.
Yeah, so Shirt Lab Tribe right now, we're in our beta mode. We're building the group. It's $49 a month until we get to 100 members, which is just right around the corner. We're averaging about 10, maybe 12 people a week, right? So you got maybe to September, and then we're going to be at our limit, and then it's going to go up to $99. And so the reason why it's cheaper is because the joke I've been saying is that we're building the airplane while we're flying it, and you're a passenger. So there's a lot of really fun and great things that we want to do, but we're not really ready yet because we're building and we're putting the effort into it, and we've got to like construct this stuff. Mm-hmm. And in the meantime, you're learning, you can participate. There's lots of engagement. There's lots of really fantastic people in the group in all ranges of shops, and we want you to join. It's a monthly thing. You can actually save more money if you pay us yearly because we give a little discount for that. But it's a month to month. If you don't like it, then cancel your subscription. We don't have any cancellations yet. So knock on wood, we're doing a good job. But I just want to throw that out there. This is really where a lot of the decorated apparel industry folks are going, because guess what we're not having? We're not having trade shows. We're not having meetups. We're not doing a lot of stuff in the industry that we're used to. And if you want to learn how to make your business better, this is where you should be going. So we've got a lot of exciting things coming up. So I just want to throw that out there.
Yep.
shirtlabtribe.com. Join.
Marshall, we got one question that came up while you were talking. Ray Smith.
Okay, great.
That's a great one for Dave.
Let me find it. Hold on.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up.
Oh, yeah. Is early payoff a bad idea then? Like paying cash flow? Oh, that's an awesome question, Ray.
And Dave, what's the difference lease and financing? It used to be lease, and it's not so much lease anymore.
Yeah. So the answer to Ray's question is it's just like anything else. It all depends. Couple problems. One, it depends on the term of your loan, Ray. So it depends on what the early payoff option is. And then it depends on how far you're into it. Because I would argue if you're halfway through any loan, it doesn't matter how it's structured, there's not a big benefit to paying it off early. 90% of your principal is made in the front half of the loan. So if you're over halfway through, save your cash, put it somewhere else. It's probably not going to make a huge difference for you than just making remaining payments out. Plus, I always think of where else can I put my cash, so,
Sure.
Put it in something that's just going to keep accumulating. But yeah, I'm not, again, it's one of those things where I'm being dishonest if there's never a point that you should pay it off early. one thing that I think that is good to get out of your head is don't pay it off early for the sake of not having a payment. That's not really ever a good excuse. Use money as a tool. So just think, is this the wisest place to put the money? Not, I'm sick of writing a monthly payment to this. Just make sure you're putting it in some place that makes the most sense. But depends on your terms, Ray. But if you're over halfway through, again, do what you want. But I wouldn't go that route. If you're 2 months in and you come across a ton of cash and you can pay it off early and only pay the principal balance, then it could be. Yeah. I was the extreme on the other side.
Are more things financed now, Dave, or are they leased?
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if we have a hard cutoff, but most equipment now is being financed. Rule of thumb, in my opinion, some of my competitors still like to do fair market values not to exceed 10%. They like to structure things a little bit differently. And my rule of thumb is if you plan on owning the equipment longer than the term, finance it. We do equipment financing all the time. You don't want a balloon payment at the back end. You're not saving yourself any tax advantages. Well, there's a caveat there because this gets complicated, but the only tax advantage, well, I won't even go that route because it would take a while, but there isn't a huge benefit to financing equipment to leasing equipment you plan on owning a long period of time, like an automatic press, an embroidery machine. If you're going to buy a piece of equipment and you plan on turning it over every 3 years, say like you get a Roland printer and you believe, hey, Roland comes out with technology every other year and I want to be on top of it, I want the fastest foot speed I possibly can, then yeah, let's do a 3-year lease on it and turn them over for you. That'd be a better option for you. But rule of thumb is I finance, in the screen print world, I finance most equipment because most equipment, lasts 10 to 15 years. So
very good.
So let's end with some comments.
Yep.
Peter says, Mark and the team at Doubt are good people, and I think we all concur.
Absolutely.
Cindy says, Eric Campbell's great. I've learned a lot from him. Thanks, Cindy. We're on the same page there with that, too. Eric says, it was really great content. We learned a lot about patches and applying them. I guess that was about Eric's thing yesterday. So good job there. Thanks, Eric. Dan says, great information today, guys. Thank you. And Rob says, good advice, good content. All this applies to personal life as well. So
absolutely. Thanks,
Rob. And I think golf clap here, Dave. Thank you so much for helping us out today. I think everybody learned a lot. And if you're watching this as a recording, I forgot to put the email in my link here for you. Dave, if somebody wants to get a hold of you or ask a question or maybe do business with you, can you share your information so they know what to do?
Yeah. So dcafinancing.com. My email's dharding@dcafinancing.com. Or I love talking to people. So call me on the phone, 888-338-4585.
And you're not locked into one vendor or another. It's just, hey, equipment, let's go.
Yep. If your small business wants equipment, that's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
So
what if they want to talk fishing?
We can do it, but somebody's got to put a buzzer so we stop eventually. So I have to be responsible on some level.
Right. Okay, great. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic weekend. We will see you tomorrow. No, we won't. We'll see you next week.
Saturday. Yeah.
It's Saturday. I don't know what I'm saying. So, hey, thank you guys and appreciate you tuning in. We'll see you later.
Bye-bye. Hang on there, Dave.